Hey, thanks for making it. We are glad you are here. This is a live event, and obviously, for those of you that have watched more than one show, understand that after the live, it actually posts, and then people will watch it and then comment as though it is live, but it's not live then. It's only live now. So here we are, and we're going to do our best, right, David, to get through any comments that we see. It is a little labor intensive, and I was just looking for my glasses. I don't have any reachable glasses at the moment. But hey, David, I'm glad you made it, and I am so happy that you're on this. We're streaming on multiple channels, and regardless of what channel you are on, thank you for the support jointly. We do appreciate it very much. Look. This is really, and I'm just gonna throw this out there. David and I didn't mention this, but I'm assuming that we're on the same page. So I'm gonna throw this out there. Then I'm going to kick it to you, David. We're on the same page with this. Is going to be a general discussion about a lot of moving pieces that are going on in our federal government that could impact or will be impacting us as veterans, and just kind of have some general round. Well, it's kind of a long oval table discussion with two people and you listening. So with that, David, is there anything? There's a bunch of things on my mind, and I am going to skip it to jump to you to let you talk about whatever's on your mind now, and then we'll start going from there.
Awesome. Well, thanks again for having me on. Yeah, we've been doing this now for, I think, a little over a year. But yeah, good kind of jump right into this. So the one thing I want to talk about, because a lot of people have been focusing in on where mortgage rates are, right? It's kind of been like the hot topic for a lot of folks. And the whole peace deal that just happened, a lot of people are anticipating rates to go down. But the Fed just met and they basically said, hey, we're holding them steady. In fact, we might be increasing them, going opposite of what they said 3 months ago. So it kind of has the markets kind of scrambling. So historically, right now, like rates are in the sixes, just kind of in general. And that's kind of historically where they've just lied, right? The 2%, 3% rates that people want to happen again I just don't foresee that happening because it was great for consumers, but just for the overall economy, it wasn't the best. So I just kind of want to throw that out there because that just happened yesterday. So it was pretty big news for folks. But then everyone was thinking like, oh, the Fed's going to drop the rate. And if you remember, last time they did that, mortgage rates went up. So it's kind of like, really, I know we talked about this before, and I talk about this in my videos. It's really knowing what your budget is. That's really the key, right? Being financially smart. And then obviously we had that huge news that happened on, what was that? Monday? That was the VA partial claim program went into effect, right? So I know you did a video. I did a video. We talked about it on the live. A lot of people have questions on it. So yeah, what's been going on with the VA?
Before we shift gears here on the stuff you just talked about, there's so much, and I just want to point out to people, and this is just a friendly reminder, and it's really double tapping on what you just said, David, regarding the Fed lowering interest rates. Look, when the Fed lowers the interest rate, just to kind of put it in this perspective, one, it's a lagging indicator of what's happening in the mortgage industry, really, because the mortgage industry makes changes every single day based on data. And so whether it's data that comes out daily, weekly, monthly data, there's adjustments that are constantly happening. And the Fed only changes it typically quarterly, is what we usually see. And sometimes they don't change it at all. It's just they have a meeting and they move on. So when it does change, it's a lagging indicator of what's already happened in the market. And two, typically it's to spark the market, which then is negatively impacting mortgage rates, which then that's why we see that uprise. And usually it's a temporary thing, and then it kind of mellows back out again. But it does directly impact short-term financing as well as home equity lines. That you're going to see a direct impact to. So I just wanted to throw that piece out there to folks. I did see a question here, kind of. It's more of a statement, but I'm going to pull it up, David, because there's a piece that you could talk about here as well. The VA sent me a letter saying that they were reducing my percentage from 75 to 50, saying that my heart failure numbers are so much better while I'm in the middle of purchasing my home using VA. So this is a two-part thing. I'm going to answer the front part of it, and then I'm going to jump to you, David. So Jimmy, thanks for the question. That sucks. So 75 is a funny number that they would mention. Usually they talk about the rounded to number. So in other words, if your raw rating was 75, they would round you to 80 and you're paid down at 80. So they only pay in 10% increments. And that's usually all they reference is the 10% increment. But whatever the case is here, a reduction is a reduction and a proposed reduction is a proposed reduction. Now, in a proposed reduction, if you received, which I'm assuming you did, notification from the VA that they are proposing a rating reduction because of X, Y, and Z, you have 30 days to put in for a request for a hearing. You have 60 days to supply evidence contradicting their motion, essentially. So in other words, you want to double down on your condition has not really gotten better. This is some abnormality that they took a small snapshot of, or whatever the case is. The important piece here that I want to throw out to you, Jimmy, is that if, and this is what's so horrible about VA and all of this stuff, is they don't really make anything super clear, and it's usually after the fact that people find this stuff out. If you get, and this is for everybody out there, if you get a notification from the VA that says, hey, we're proposing a reduction, that 30-day request time period for a hearing, if you do that within 30 days, not required, don't have to, but if you do, the VA cannot reduce you until they go through the whole entire process to figure it out to see if it's actually a valid reduction. So it buys you time to figure it out, in my opinion. Now, if they still rule that you have that reduction, well, that's a different story, but at least you're buying yourself some time while you're going through that process. So that's kind of my 2 cents on it. David, the second part, he's in the middle of purchasing a home.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate with the reduction. Sorry to hear about that. So when it comes to the loan itself, you still won't be paying the VA funding fee because you still have a greater disability rating of 10% or more. So that part's positive. From an income perspective, like how a lender is qualifying you, kind of like what Jason said, like if it's extended, right, to you submit it, it's not going to be resolved for another 60 days after you closed. The lender's going to look at your current certificate of eligibility, and that's the income they're going to use to qualify you. Now, in the event that changes and they pull a new certificate of eligibility, and I know the VA, they do not update that fast, right? Normally it takes some time for them to do that. Or you can submit that to the lender and say, hey, I have been reduced to 50, use this income. But if you change your income, then you change your qualification. Right. So really, you can talk to a lender. You could schedule a call with me down in the description, and we could look at it for you and tell you, like, is this going to change your qualification or not? I'm assuming that you do have a job if you're at 80% qualifying to purchase a property. So that'd be just something that you want to review. But even if the lender doesn't find out and you do get a reduction, you have to just know where you are financially to still, like, does it still make sense to buy the property based on if your income gets updated? Because Jason, what's the difference between 50 and 80%? Do you know what the payout difference is?
It's probably like $1,000.
Oh, wow.
I don't have it in front of me. VA disability comp.
Let me look that up.
Thanks a lot, David. Jeez, like I'm supposed to have all that stuff memorized.
Yeah, so 2102 for 80%. Then at 50%, it's 1132. So it's a good amount difference, right? So that's like $850 difference a month. So that's pretty big. See, yeah,
that's pretty close. $1,000, rounding it out. Yeah. And I saw a couple comments in here that we're kind of breaking in and out a little bit. I don't know if it's me or if it's David. I'm going to blame David because he's in a different location than he normally is, and the reception's a little more spotty. So usually it's me. I will say that. But at this point, we don't know who it is. So I apologize for any funkiness out there. There is another comment here. that I wanted to push out here for us, and this is really geared towards you since we talked about this. So having issues accessing the VA IRRRL loan benefits due to court cost owed in Virginia. Any advice? Not sure exactly what that means. Does that spark anything in your mind? Maybe there's a judgment.
Maybe a judgment.
That judgment is what's causing an issue. So, I don't know if that sparks anything in your mind.
Sometimes something could come up on what's called a Cavers report, right? That's a report where you owe the government money. And if you owe the government money, then you can't even use your VA loan. Or if you have a VA loan and you're trying to do an interest rate reduction refinance loan, then it will block you until that's paid off. Or if you've made 6 consecutive payments on there, then it will unlock that benefit for you to be able to do that. Now, normally we see that from a federal government standpoint, right? On the Cavers report. There can be times where let's say when a lender pulls a credit report, they're primarily looking at your mortgage payment and that you've made all your payments on time. But yeah, a judgment could stall things. A Cavers report would stall it. Back pay and child support would also stop that normally. So it really depends. I don't know if you could drop a comment and let me know which part of that is holding you back, because the court records is kind of general.
Yeah, it's there might even be a possibility. I mean, if it's something that you owe, and there might be a possibility to handle that through escrow. However, it is an interest rate reduction refinance loan, and so there's only a very tiny bit of money that can come out and still not count as cash back, right?
Right. Yeah, it's like $200, like $250 or something like that. So it's a small, it's a small number. So
wow. Yeah. So there's a couple more here, and then I'm gonna move on, and we'll jump back into comments here in a minute. So one real quick, I just got to say, what is up? 12 Bravo 10. Been a while since I've seen you. Look, you are one of the originals. I remember you forever, and you are in the Atlanta area, and you don't like the VA healthcare system there. That's what I know. All right, good to see you, brother. So here's another one. So this is VR&E stipend. Will that be included into income? As far as this is a great question, and let's loop in, David. Let's loop in any educational benefit. So, whether it's your post 9/11 GI Bill, your housing allowance, VR&E stipend, whatever it may be, can you give a quick overview on what's countable income and what is not countable income? But they could let's also throw in that there are kind of compensating factors. Things that help make your file look better, but they don't really equate to the actual dollars and cents.
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. We do get that question a lot, just in general on school benefits. So BAH for school benefits does not count as income to qualify for a VA home loan, but your 100% PNT does count as income. Where you can use the BAH stipend is towards your reserves and assets for closing costs. So they'll actually be able to, if that exceeds what your current housing cost is and you have an extra $1,000 you can save, over 6 months, that's going to give you 6. Over 12 months, it's going to give you 12,000. Then you can actually use that money for closing costs, paying down debt to qualify for a VA home loan. But to use that income directly to qualify, you wouldn't be able to use it. And there's sometimes cases, Jason, where we have 2 veterans that are both in like a VA NRE program. They're both married. They're both receiving disability. But then when you look at that BAH, you're like $5,000 a month. It would be awesome to use that. But but again, it kind of goes back to that earlier question. Like if you have a reduction in VA disability, what happens after those, in 2027 when that ends, and now you're counting on that income to qualify? That's why they don't count that.
It's super smart. I mean, it's 2 things. One, this is a known end date for that income. It's temporary in nature. And 2, you don't really want any lender to rely on that income to put you into something that's over your head, comfortable today, not so comfortable tomorrow. And you don't want to be in that position. this is actually turning into the David show, so I'm glad I could be here to help you.
Help each
But
other.
there are a couple more questions, and I can't leave them because one is the follow-up to the other question. So I'm going to go there, and I promise we're going to shift gears, but I mean we're on a David roll. So here's another question for you. I have a question for David. Do you help with building a monolith home? I'm not quite sure what monolith is, David. So it's probably a Google search away.
Yeah, I'm looking it up. I thought that was from Witcher, like those monoliths that they had, but that's okay.
Not my wheelhouse anymore. I don't have to know home things. For those that don't know, I was in the mortgage industry for. Look, my history is basically two things, right? When you're of age, as many of you may be, you get a little more experience under your belt. The first half of my working life was really in the mortgage industry. Then it shifted, and then the last 15 plus years have been in the veterans benefit space. So those are my two. I'll say expertise, but whatever. It's you get it, David.
This is a good combo. So I looked up what these homes are, and tell me if I'm wrong, but they're dome-like structures. That's what they seem to be looking it up. So it's like a dome home. A dome home. So one thing that we don't do VA construction loans because that's a separate beast. And I know a lot of people have been looking for a lender to do them. We are looking into doing those down in the future, but it is a very different process. I don't see why it would be an issue because you can build like log homes, barndominiums with a VA home loan. So this would just, as long as it meets code for the area, that's kind of the big thing. And then, if it's a community of them where they can show like, hey, these homes have sold, that's another positive bonus. But sometimes if you do these one-off, super unique homes, like you can't do container homes, right, with the VA loan, to my knowledge. So just kind of, and I know a lot of people want those.
I would be down. I would be down.
Tiny homes.
Yeah.
I'd be like tiny homes. Like, hey, can I build like a tiny home community with my VA loan? Same thing that normally is not going to apply because the VA does have its minimum requirements for square footage, and I do not know those offhand right now. Because you can buy manufactured and modular homes with the VA loan, so there's definitely more affordable options that you can run into. But I would definitely just reach out to somebody that does VA construction loans currently and see if that's a possibility to do that. Because you can still, the cool thing about the construction loan is you could buy the land and start the construction at the same time, which is pretty cool.
Right. Yeah. So I'm going to answer a non-David question here real quick, and then I'm going to bounce it back to you, David, for a couple more. And then we're going to actually shift gears into some other big things that are going on in the veteran space. So here's this one. If you're 100% P&T, age 58, should you have to worry about anything as you move forward? And for whatever reason, it's happening with your pay, or pretty much should you feel secure? So, Michael, you should feel very secure. Being permanent and total in itself is about the most secure place you can be. Once you're over 55, what that does is that really it's already identified in a permanent and total nature that you're in, which once you hit 55, the VA pretty much assumes that the majority of conditions are not going to improve. So they're not going to schedule a future exam. Well, you're already not in the future exam bucket because of permanent and total, meaning that your conditions, at least enough of them, add up to 100% that are static in nature, deemed so by the VA. The VA has decided, look, it's not worth rescheduling any sort of appointments for you to look at any of your conditions because they're most likely not going to get better, and it would just be a waste of money to reevaluate you. So you're in a very good and safe place out there. Now, David, back to you. This is the follow-up. It's a clouded title. So it's judgment from old fines. Now, I'm not sure from the original VA loan. I don't know how that works. Then as soon as he bought the property, apparently the court attached a bunch of liens attached to the property, I'm assuming. So it's on title. So it's a clouded title. Your thoughts?
Yeah, that's the thing that you have to be careful of when you buy a home, just for folks in general. Because if you do have outstanding debt and they all of a sudden see that you own something then they will just go ahead and tag on like, hey, peekaboo, like we're here.
Yeah.
You owe us money. And then they take that judgment and then file it to your property. Yeah. So that would be something you would have to pay off, because let's just put the VA aside. The title company is not going to insure the title because of that. Because if you're refinancing the house, then they want to be able to get paid that money. So you could reach out to them and see if you can come up with some type of plan with them, or a reduced payment. That could be an option, because the interest rate reduction refinance loan is there to lower your rate. Depending on how much this is, you may be, I wouldn't say forced, or if it's a good idea, but you might want to look at a cash out refi so you can pay that off. I don't know how much it is and if you agree with it or not, because that's sometimes the challenge, Jason. It's like you go through life and then you're like, well, they should have never charged me this. They're not taking this off. And then you're kind of stuck in this like payment piece, which is unfortunate. But yeah, that's something that would have to be handled because it is on the title.
Exactly. Now, let's shift gears a little bit here and let's talk about a couple different things. One, I see that there's a question here from Arthur Hannes 4347. You're asking about, is there any update on the Major Richard Starr Act? And so for those that don't know, there's a new piece of legislation out there. It's the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. Now, I'm going to throw this out there. The DAV and the VFW are strongly opposing the bill, specifically the funding mechanism. However, I am not opposing the bill. I am 1,000% for the funding mechanism in there. This act is going to incorporate 60 plus pieces of legislation, including the Sherry Briley and Eric Edmondson Veterans Benefits Expansion Act. It's also going to include stuff with the Major Richard Starr Act. Now, there have been some tweaks that can be untweaked with regard to how they're implementing these certain things. But as far as the funding mechanism is concerned, remember, I've talked about it for years now. The rating schedule changed. The last 4 of 15, 11 rating schedules have already been changed. There's 4 left: auditory, respiratory, mental health, and neurological. What they're looking at here, and for those of you that have been watching for a while, you understand, because I've said it 1,000 times, tinnitus is going away as a standalone condition. And it can only be rated really in the event that you have a non-compensable hearing loss with tinnitus. If you have that, they'll give you 10%. That's for the new rating schedule moving forward. Then they're changing the sleep apnea criteria and really condensing it down, making it very difficult to get any sort of substantial rating. Essentially, they're saying if your sleep apnea is deemed adequately treated, you get a 0. Okay. In today's world, if you're prescribed a CPAP, it's 50%. In the future world, it's a 0% if it's adequately treated with that CPAP. So that is already in process. It's important to understand that is moving forward. And according to the VA in January, during a Senate hearing, they said, we'll have it implemented. Our target date is by the end of the fiscal year. Well, that's September. We're 3 months away. So it's happening. And if history repeats itself, 11 rating schedules prior, they all go into effect 99% as written. Small little tweaks here and there. Now, I pushed out probably 3 or 4 or 5, I don't even know, a lot of videos on this subject over the last few days because it's that important. Then, remember, DAV and VFW have opposed it, specifically really pointing to the funding mechanism. The funding mechanism is utilizing those rating schedule changes for auditory and respiratory, specifically tinnitus and sleep apnea. And they're saying, hey, instead of it happening organically through the VA's process, let's pull it in under this legislation and say that's going to be our funding mechanism. Seems smart. Seems like don't let that go to waste. Don't let it just become a savings. Let's use it and get something for it. Now, to the point for the DAV and the VFW, they don't want it to become some sort of, well, we took benefits away in the past to get something to pass. Let's keep doing that. I don't think that that's going to be an issue with this because this is specific to rating schedule changes. that are being implemented based on medical evidence and advances and all these different things. So I don't think that they're going to come in and just change other benefits in order to get things to pass. I think that this doesn't create a precedent. It creates just a very, very narrow opportunity here. Now, subsequently, the American Legion just came out supporting the bill. So now you have DAV and VFW opposing, and you have American Legion supporting, as well as myself. So, it's kind of split, but I'm in the camp of don't cut your nose off to spite your face. These do not live in a fantasy world. These rating changes will be happening. Whether we capitalize on them or not is a different story. All that to be said, yes, the Major Richard Starr Act is included in there. We need to have some discussion, and I'll be doing videos on this and pushing out toward legislators on any sort of changes that have been made with regard to exactly how they're implementing the Major Richard Starr Act, and specifically the Sherry Briley and Eric Edmondson Benefits Expansion Act. That leads me to you, David. The Sherry Briley and Eric Edmondson Veterans Benefits Expansion Act, which is now included in the Take Care of America's Veterans Act. Whew.
Wow, I can't believe you memorized all that.
You say it enough, apparently, and it just kind of comes out. And I'll tell you guys this, for those of you that have hung on now, it's hard to talk that much without breathing. It's a damn art. So on the Sherry Briley and Eric Edmondson Act, they didn't change anything that I see as of yet with regard to the funding mechanism for it. So although they're taking money in, right, really to fund the Major Richard Starr Act, and they're not really doing anything. All they're doing is they're saying instead of the VA doing it and creating the savings, we'll pull it in, we'll make the changes, and we'll call that our offset. See, look, it is David. It is David, not me. So what we're looking at is what is the difference right now? He's probably stressed out too. So what we're looking at here, there he is. I see him. He's coming back. Boom.
I think it has me in two spots.
There you go. I'm getting rid of your other one. There. So with this, from what I can tell, David, they did not change the funding mechanism specifically for the Sherry Briley and Eric Edmondson Benefits Expansion Act. Now, there's a few different pieces of that where they're going to bring money in to fund that bill. One of them is the one that just really frustrates me. The other ones are kind of like, okay, well, you're opening up a new benefit. That's a good thing. And there's a cost to it. Well, it was a new thing, so I'm kind of okay with that structure. Can you talk a little bit about it, specifically the IRRRL aspect?
Yeah, so the interest rate reduction refinance loan is going to be increased. I believe it's right now it's a 0.5% VA funding fee to 1.4%. So it's basically tripling. And if you think about average price point of homes being $400,000, right? So it goes from $2,000 now to $6,000, and you're saving, let's say, 0.5% on the rate. And now you're tacking on plus closing costs. That just kind of adds up really fast. And this is why I kind of go back always to the VA disability side. 10% or greater rating, and you don't pay the VA funding fee across the board, right? So that's a huge piece to it. And like you mentioned too, they're expanding who's eligible for the VA loan as well. If this goes through, like this will be this will be the biggest change around who's eligible for a VA home loan in a long time. Because it used to be like only active duty, then they opened up the Guard and Reserve. But like this requirement's like basic training, advanced school, and 14 drill days, and voila. Like if that was me huge. When I was at Benning, I basically came off of one station unit training for infantry, went right into an AT. So within 4 months of joining the military in the Guard, I'm able to use the VA loan, which is faster than active duty, which I don't get that, but that's okay. But they're increasing the VA funding fee by like another 1%. So if you've used the VA loan more than once, it's going to be like 4.3%. So like you said, but I wonder, Jason, if they're trying to put this entire bill together, would they be able to use part of that money for the other bill? Like, because it's all in
Right.
the same bill?
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Ah,
I think that should be the push, right? So, you know, Congress is such a funny thing, right? And so sometimes you have the 2-year cycle, and sometimes it's like you're trying to push all this stuff through. So many things get stagnated and have to get reintroduced and all of that stuff. There has been multiple comments about that really this funding mechanism of utilizing essentially the rating schedule changes that are happening anyway, and just sliding it over and saying we're using that. Really coming into play now, I think is moving very quickly. They took all these bills, put it underneath that umbrella, and I do see a comment here that I do want to address. I'm going to show it here. Platoon Daddy, mostly because it's Platoon Daddy. 11 Bravo, of course. I mean,
yeah, welcome.
nobody else would say Platoon Daddy. Nobody. Zero other people. 11 Bravo. So when I was in the Marine Corps, I was 0341. When I went to the Army National Guard, I was 11 Charlie. So close enough. We're roommates, so to speak. But the VFW has changed its position. Read an article from them yesterday. And this actually almost makes me even more mad. I cannot stand, David, I'm going to go on a tiny little rant.
Go ahead, go do it.
I cannot stand when people or organizations are not solid in their messaging. I mean, look, say it, mean it, have some conviction. And if you can't do that, then don't say damn anything. Take a step back, take a knee, think about it, then come forward with whatever you're convicted with. From the very beginning, David, I have supported the funding mechanism because I understood what the hell was happening. And I thought, this is our only opportunity in the political environment that we've been in for a while, with regard to pay-go, trying to find offsets, all of that type of stuff. And I thought to myself, wow, this is actually a great idea because it's going to happen anyway. It's on the rating schedule changes that were developed by the VA with all the medical evidence, blah, 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 whether we agree with it or not, which I don't agree. I mean, but that's easy for me to say. I'm not a doctor. I don't agree with the new sleep apnea changes, right? Well, I don't agree because I'm pro-veteran and pro-veterans getting the highest ratings that they can for the conditions that they have. I mean, that's my position. So, and I understand that is very not scientific, which is fine. So we take what we can, we look for opportunities. And if we're not looking for opportunities to get other pieces of major legislation through, we're missing out. So I'm so glad that you brought this up. I'm very happy to hear that they changed their viewpoint, but I'm also a little bit concerned that they can be so flippy floppy, wishy-washy, because if you can go that way one day, you're going to go the other way the other day. And it's quite frankly embarrassing when you are a gigantic organization that has paid for lobbyists that lobby for you, that have people that are on the Hill dealing with this stuff day in and day out. You would have thought that they would have put a little more effort, time, and energy into it. That, quite frankly, is why I appreciated the American Legion's 2 or 3 day kind of delay behind everybody else, and really referenced that we really looked into this, really thought about it. And who knows? I mean, maybe it seemed to me like I was the only one that was really pissed that there was any sort of negativeness about the funding mechanism, because that could really slow it down and stall the whole thing, especially for folks that don't understand, or people out there that did not understand that the VA has already put all the work in to make these changes. It's already in process. Like it's usually a 3 to 5 year process from proposal to implementation for rating schedule changes. And the VA said they're going to implement it by the end of the year. History repeats itself. Look, 11 done. It's going to be almost exactly as written. The last one was GERD, or the digestive system, which had GERD in it, and they completely screwed up the GERD rating schedule, and made it way more difficult for veterans to get any sort of rating out of that rating schedule anymore. It happens, but you know what we got out of it as veterans? Zero. We got nothing. You know what the VA got? Well, they got a savings on future claims because those future claims are not as bolsterous as they once were. So they create a savings, but we as the veteran community got zero. We have a choice. We can let that happen again with these rating schedule changes, or we could say, oh no, BS, Congress, here's your money, here's your offset right here. We're already doing it. Let's move forward. So anyway, that was my rant. I'm still irritated about it. I'm going to give it to you because I'm such a bull right now with a red, like all I see is red, that I can't think of anything else. So I'm going to give it to you, and you can talk so I can just sit here and wish that I had water left to drink.
You ran out of water.
I did.
All that talking.
Huh.
Well, I don't know. I'm not too familiar with that specific funding. All I know is about the Sherry Briley one, because that's still,
Yes.
I think it's crazy that they're making veterans pay for their own benefits to that. But yeah, let's pull up. Is there any questions? I know I see some up on the thing, and I'll answer some of those.
Yeah. So, the other one that we have here is, well, there's another follow-up on the 900 homes built. There's just a tad over 900 built in the United States, and I believe those are
the dome home.
Dome homes.
Dome homes.
Yeah. That's right.
It's probably not a good tagline because people will get confused on it. But yeah, so when I said other homes like it, they'll be like in that area. But you got to talk to a lender that does VA construction, because that's going to be the easiest way to do that. All right. All right. So David, does the property tax exemption take effect immediately once you get approved with your county, or do you have to wait till the following year? And is there any back pay? So Joshua, great question. Now, this is going to vary widely based on the county that you're purchasing in and the state, right? But primarily, it's going to be the county. Some counties, and you want to ask these questions, because I just talked to someone recently where they didn't ask the questions, and they're like, wait a second, I'm not being tax exempt for 2 more years, and I'm going to explain how that happens. So taxes are either paid current, meaning that like in this quarter, you're going to be paying this quarter's taxes. Or like, let's say in Illinois, taxes are paid in arrears, meaning that in 2026 this year, we're actually paying 2025 taxes. So if you bought a house this year in 2026, your exemption won't kick in until 2028. And when it kicks in 2028, you don't get a refund of the money you've been paying because that money was due. The way you find out exactly the information, not like looking online helps to give you just kind of a baseline, especially if you find the county assessor's office and you search for 100% permanent total disabled veterans property tax exemption, then you'll be able to find a link. But I still encourage you to call the county assessor's office and ask them exactly how the tax exemption works. The other part is that just because you get a tax exemption, like if you were to get one, let's say in Cook County for like they will send you a letter that you're exempt, you won't get that full exemption for 0 property taxes to the following year. And back pay, the only time I've seen back pay happen is, let's say you've owned the property now for 2 or 3 years. You filed a claim before you bought the house. It took 3 years to get your VA disability rating. They backdate your rating to prior to buying the house. Okay. Then you can go back and potentially, well, you should be able to get back those 3 years of taxes you've paid, right? That's how it's supposed to work in theory. So that is something that you definitely want to reach out to the county for and figure that out, because again, every single one's going to be a little bit different. But this is why a lot of times, Jason, I encourage folks that are in that home buying process, we'll talk to them like, are you service connected? They're like, I just been pulling it off. We tell them how much it's going to cost for the VA funding fee. And then all of a sudden we got a new attitude. It's like, wait a second, you know what? Maybe I'm going to look into it, file my intent, and then start going through it. Because I mean, just imagine, 2.15%, still $400,000. You're spending like $8,300 in the VA funding fee. So if you're buying already at 100% financing and you're tacking on the VA funding fee, you're technically upside down buying a house, which again, you have a huge benefit, no money down, but you got to kind of look at the long-term goal of, do I want to get property tax exemptions, which is huge. right? Because I mean, in some states, you're not
Right.
paying anything. So
Yeah, absolutely. And look, here's the other thing. Typically, okay, one, every state's different. Every county may be different. So it's a very geographic thing. Inspect what you expect. Go have the conversations and make sure that you understand. And I'm going to throw this out there. Many cases and many people talk about being 100% or even 100% permanent in total, and that's what unlocks the exemption. That might not be the case. There might be lower thresholds in certain states and counties. And check this out. In some states and counties, they also have exemptions for other things. Could be an age. Once you're over a certain age, they may have a provision in their laws that allow you to be exempt because they're like, we're not going to make a 75-year-old pay these extra taxes for schools and whatever because they're so much older. It's just everywhere is different. So I encourage you that even if you are not 100%, even if you're not even rated, go check with your local county tax. Nobody goes to these places. I mean, they're like graveyards.
Nobody does.
Nobody goes inside to have a conversation. And I encourage you to do that. So go there to figure it out, right? I'm just curious. Are there any sort of tax exemptions in the county that you guys offer for anything? Oh, well, this and that and this and that, and then you'll know. So you're getting direct from the horse's mouth, so to speak. The other thing is your congressional member's office. I'm telling you that the more awareness that local congressional office has with regard to you, the constituent, being aware that they're there, right? The more that they are going to be, I think, in the back of their mind going, okay, I need to do good things for veterans, right? We want that to happen, but typically it's the squeaky wheel that gets the oil. And if we're not a loud group in our local constituency, well, then it doesn't matter, right? So it's the same. I'm telling you this. I know from experience when I worked for the government and I was highly involved and I wasn't an elected official, but I was working with them all. And it's the same 12 people that keep going and rattling the cages of these elected officials' offices. Be the 13th person to speak up for veteran issues. I'm telling you, it really does make a difference. I just did another video with Congressman Loudermilk is his name. And he's been in Congress for like 12 years. I'll be posting it here in a few days. But I talked with him about various issues, and it's really, we got two things going on. You have stuff at the Hill, right? Capitol Hill, where everything is. That's where all your lobbyists are, all of that. And we have the VFWs and DAVs and American Legions and all of them pounding their fist. And thank goodness, again, that the VFW changed their tune. Hopefully now the DAV will as well, to get on board with the American Legion and myself. I'll just throw that out there that I've never changed. I can honestly say that my position has been the same with a lot of things forever. I mean, like, I don't change. It's the same damn thing. It's just, maybe I'll change how I say it, but it's the same position. So that's happening at the Hill, but we need to have a voice in the constituency. And look, I get it. Not everybody wants to go pound on somebody's desk, right? Don't have the energy, the gumption to go do that. But at a minimum, we should be sending an email. Hey, I think this is a great idea. You guys should do it. The congressperson's not going to get it. Their staffer will. The staffer's going to tally mark, hey, we had 147 people reach out about this specific issue. And I just want to bring it to your attention so you know. That's a big deal. Again, remember, there's 12 people out there shaking their cage, and there's not very many veterans doing it except for at the Hill. So we need to do it in the constituencies. And if you want to go in person, they don't bite. They're super friendly. It's like any other, they want to get reelected, and their staffers are nice. Everything's fine. You walk in, hey, I'm veteran so-and-so. I just wanted to say, I support this. And could you pass that on for me? Sure. You're going to feel like they don't. Believe me, they do. It's just they don't really reach back that good, but they're making mental notes. So It's kind of a call to action, really. I mean, I think that it's important that we do it, and that's why I say it, because I've seen the consequences of not. The consequences of not are too much. All right,
Oh,
I
Jason,
see this. Yeah,
let me add
go.
2 things for that VA disability thing. It's actually kind of important. So one, if you have 100% disability rating, some places you still need to have an honorable discharge along with that. And you also have to double check, because if you have, let's say, 100% TDIU, you may not get the exemption, but some places will give you the exemption. But you got to think about what happens if you lose that TDIU. Now you're going to pay property taxes. So you really got to think through the long haul of this. Just like what you're saying, right? You have to go to Congress. You have to speak up because loud mouths get fed. You say that a
Yes.
lot. And so it's the same thing here. You got to do the research so you're in a good spot and just kind of, figure out what your budget is.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. You mentioned it a little bit up front regarding the funding fee and how sometimes it's funny because you get people coming in from all different directions. And for those that don't know, I was an accredited veteran service officer for many years, ran a team, all that good stuff. And we would get people coming into the office that get guided there from all kinds of different walks, right? And you're absolutely right, David. We've had people come in going, yeah, hey, I'm getting ready to buy a house. I need to get rated really quick. And it's okay. First of all, it doesn't have to happen really quick. We just need to get your intent to file in place to preserve the effective date, get your claim filed. And as long as we can get you a rating, you're going to be solid and you're going to get that funding fee either waived if you purchase after the fact or refunded if you purchase after the fact, but your effective date was prior. I hope that made sense. So there is the opportunity to get your funding fee refunded to you in the event that you can prove to the VA that your service connection went into place prior to your actual purchase date of the home. So really important and really quick, just as I don't know what you want to call it, a public service announcement, if you will. If you are not properly rated, that needs to be your number one goal right now. And the reason why, and you actually say this a lot, David, in this world of veteran benefit stuff, typically the veterans benefit side that drives compensation, when changes happen, it's typically not making it more bolsterous. It's tightening it up.
Right.
And so what I say is it's not getting any easier. It's not. And I guarantee you that folks that are watching today, 2 years from now, are going to look back and go, wow, I wish I would have X.
Just like housing.
Oh, yeah. Oh, man.
It's the same thing on both.
I wish that I bought a bunch of dump houses in the 1990s, right? A bunch of $100,000 houses in California, in the Bay Area, in the worst part that you could possibly think of. Find me the highest murder capita rate. I want to buy there. That's what I want to buy. But oh well, those days are gone. Now they're millions of dollars, and somebody else is
just like VA disability. Those days are gone to get those ratings, and you could have had $1 million by now.
Oh God, don't ever do the math. Don't ever do the math because you will be upset with yourself. So take advantage of it. The other thing is, for those of you that are on right now, if you are not subscribed to David's channel, VA Housing Education, please do that. Look, it's about supporting each other. Plus, it's good information, and it's better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it. So there's that. So please subscribe, help grow that channel because, well, one, he's a solid individual, trustworthy, and a team player, if you will. So take advantage of all of the information that he gives out. And if you're not subscribed to Veterans Daily, please do that. It is the other channel. And what I'm going to try to do there, David, is we're actually streaming this on that channel too. And I'm going to have you on that channel even more often, along with other guests. And it's going to kind of be the guest channel a little more. So please subscribe there as well. All the support really does help. Now, let me ask you a question, David. When it comes to, I actually have two questions, and I almost tried to merge them together and create one just mess of a question, and I'm not going to do that to you. So instead,
thank you.
You're welcome. So instead, I'm going to make it very simple. For those out there that are watching interest rates and wondering, and actually, okay, I'm stealing this question and I can't find it in the questions, but I did read it. There was a comment there and I just can't find it now. It's loosely this: interest rates are moving, house prices are moving. Should we just wait for the perfect storm, David? Should we just wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait and wait for the interest rate to drop and the house prices to get where I want them to be so I could buy and get the best deal? Or should we just pull the trigger now?
I think people have been saying that since 2021. Well, I mean, I'm in the same boat. I was helping so many people out during that time. I couldn't even buy a house myself. And I look back at like, why didn't I buy a house then? I could have bought the house.
I wish I would have.
200,000 cheaper. I could have had a 2% interest rate. It could have been all great. But if you miss that boat and you're waiting on the sidelines for this perfect storm, you're going to continue to wait, because even Jason, perfect storm, 2008, 2009, market completely collapses. It's crazy time, right? And even if you bought during that time, today, you'd be doing just fine. So you got to kind of think about where your financial picture is. Listen, some veterans, Jason, a lot of veterans, let's say they have 100% VA disability. You have one veteran that can't qualify for even $100,000. And then you have another veteran that could buy $1.3 million multifamily property.
Right.
So most of the time, it's controlling your budget. I did a video on this. Like, people are like, well, I'm going to wait for rates to drop 1%. That's like $260 or so on an average price point property right now. $260. You stay in 2 nights, you cancel some subscriptions, you cut back on a couple things, and you should be able to do that. But I think a lot of time people live in the now and they're like, well, I want to go do things. I don't want to live a boring life. And that's kind of what gets people. So that was a long answer. Short answer is, if you can afford it today, what makes you think that you'll be able to afford it next year or the following year when you see prices go up? And if there is a market correction, I want people to understand this. When the rates went down and home values were like still somewhat steady, investors came in and they just purchased all the houses. They got lines of credit, hundreds of millions of dollars for 0%. And they're like, we're just going to buy everything. And the same thing happens now, where if there is a market correction, right? And that is already happening. Like, look at Florida, look at Texas, look at the West Coast. You see prices dropping, but they're like 5%. So if you're going to be buying a house to flip it in a year or two, okay, different story. But most of everyone watching is not doing that, right? We're planning, like when I bought my place, I wasn't planning on moving for another 10, 15 years. So I don't, it's where I'm at today. Can I afford it today? And guess what? If rates drop, I can always do an interest rate reduction refinance loan while the other crazy people fight and keep driving prices up. And I'm in the background laughing. My buddy's going through that right now. He's like, why didn't I buy like 3 years ago? Now I'm dealing with clowns.
Yeah. No,
I get heated about it because I'm like,
so this is it's always been the same. Look, houses are more expensive today than they were in 1960, right? Houses in 1960, right, are more expensive than houses from 1950. Yeah. Houses in 1970 more than 60, more, in 80 more than 70, and 90 more than 80, right? So it does stair step. There will be little corrections, but the longer you plan on owning it, the more likely it's going to be worth more than it was when you purchased it. The longer you have it, right? So sure, could it turn down? Yes, but it'll end up eventually turning around and going back up. We see it over and over and over again, even with dramatic crashes like the 07, 08. Horrific. People were losing 50%, 60%, 70% of the value of their home in some areas. And now it's way up past that again. Here's the idea. And I agree with you 1,000%. And this is with my old mortgage hat on. Yes, purchase what you can afford and budget for what you can today. Purchase that. If there's an interest rate correction or a lowering of interest rates, you're in a great position to refi. You're not stuck with your interest rate. If interest rates get better, you refinance. And luckily, we have the EARL. And that's my next question. The EARL, interest rate reduction refinance loan, which is super long. That's why everybody says EARL. So talk about a couple of the major benefits that come from having that in your back pocket. So you must have a VA loan on the home. So you can't go buy your home on a conventional loan, then turn around and ask for an EARL. It has to be a VA loan. So let's start it off with that. You have a VA loan, and now all of a sudden rates look better and it's advantageous for you. What are some of the benefits of this program?
So it's a built-in benefit to the VA loan. So you can do an interest rate reduction refinance loan on a primary residence, a second home, and an investment property. Most people don't realize that, as long as you used your VA loan to purchase it and you kept that VA home loan. The other requirements are the rate has to drop a minimum of 0.5%. You have to be able to recoup the closing costs, not including escrows and transfer taxes. Florida is notorious for that. Within 36 months. So if you're saving $100 a month, closing costs for lender and title fees can't be more than $3,600. That's kind of in general. And the cool part about it is you don't need an appraisal. You can have a $5 million house and collect 10% VA disability. They're going to let you refi because you have a source of income. They're not looking at your actual income. You don't need to get a termite inspection, which is also great. So those are huge benefits. Now, you do have to make your mortgage payment on time for the last 12 months. So kind of keep that in mind. We're going through that process. The lender's still looking at what your credit is to determine your interest rate. So the higher your credit, the better the rate is. One thing, Jason, I've seen a lot of people do EARLs, and sometimes I look at them and I question why they do them, right? So we have a lot of folks that reach out to us. They would say, hey, David, I want to do a refinance. Can you take a look at it? We'll look at it because we also do VA home loans. I mean, that's all we do is VA loans, right? That's from my end. And so we'll look at it and go like, why are we spending $14,000 to save $150 a month? Like, you got to really look at the math of this and where does it make sense? Where does it not? So I would say for most of folks that we talk to, probably more than half, I tell them don't do anything. Because, I mean, we got to look out for, because you don't do this every day and lenders want to sell you stuff. I just want to be like, does this make sense? Yeah, it makes sense. This is why. This is how you can recoup it. Sometimes people will refinance out of a conventional loan into a VA loan just so they can do the EARL later on, right? So that can be a benefit, but we'd have to look at the whole piece of that.
Right. And if you're doing that, sometimes it's the same thing with benefits, man. There's so much nuance in mortgage too, right? Everybody's situation's different. Could be a refinance from a conventional loan into a cash out situation with a VA loan, cash out VA loan, pay off all of your debt. Now you're debt free, but it's all underneath your mortgage now, but it's in one place, lower overall interest rate, tax deductible interest, all that stuff matters in the big picture. And now you're poised to do that EARL. So there's a lot of options there. There's another question here for you specifically, David. And before though, I do want to throw out, thank you so much, Denise P777, 777s makes me want to go to the casino and double my VA pay. So
no, don't do it. Bad financial advice.
No, bad idea. It's a good thing I don't live in Nevada, man, because I do like me some blackjack. So as long as it's not drivable, right? Like easily drivable, like I'm gonna run over there, and be back in a little bit. Yeah. So, All right. So thank you so much. I appreciate you. I'm just gonna call you 777. Thank you. All right. So here's the question. And I'm going to let you read it with your glasses.
Are there minimum size requirements for a new mobile home square footage, single or double wide? So I did look that up. I did see that
You
question.
left out
So
the most important part, David, the last part.
Cab 69 Steve.
That's right. Okay, there. That was the best part.
Okay, thank you. I thought you
All
said
right.
you couldn't read.
Oh, wow. I had to blow it up.
So 400 square feet for a single wide, 700 for a double wide. So that's kind of the requirements for that. Yeah. Yeah. So you can with those type of properties, you have a lot of flexibility. We've helped a lot of folks purchase existing mobiles, like mobile home, single wide or double wide. Because if you get a double, if you want to buy land and get a mobile home, then it's still going to be considered a VA construction loan. So you would have to reach out to someone that does those. Currently, we don't do them, but like I said, we're looking at doing those here in the near future.
But in existing
Yes.
you can do. So here's my questions for you on that. So permanent foundation.
Yep. Has to be affixed to the property. You got to take those wheels off.
Got it. I'm just my old mortgage days popping in my head. Here's the other question. In some areas, you'll find neighborhoods of these where people can, they could buy the lot with the property and it's affixed to the property and all that stuff. But there's others that have like 100-year leases on the lot. What is your thoughts on that? How does that work out?
So you're talking about a leasehold versus a fee simple state. So yeah, so area, right? Because you can still have leasehold in a fee simple area. But yeah, you can do that. Do I recommend that? I think it's tricky because if you have a 100-year lease and you just, let's say there's 10 years left on the lease, you buy this mobile home and put it on there, and let's say that lease doesn't renew, guess what? They just take that property away from you. So you gotta have to be really careful with those. I have never seen. We don't do too many leasehold properties because we really don't have a lot of veterans trying to buy those. But
there's not a lot out there, but it's a very specific thing. Like Hawaii will do that type of stuff. There's some places in I'm sure there are other places too, but I ran across places in California where it was like water access to the Central California Delta. So waterways and boats and all that stuff. And so there's a little neighborhood and that type of stuff. So anyway, I just thought that was important. One more thing before we wrap up here. Are you good on time, David?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay. So on the mindset of one, I'm actually surprised single wide, to be honest with you. I remember double wides. Double wide, yes. Single wide, no. But you're saying yes on single wides?
Yeah, that's what I'm pulling up.
Yeah, cool, sweet. So, so that's awesome for that as an option for folks. Remember, it does have to be affixed to the foundation. It has to be permanently affixed. You can't just hook it up to the trailer and drive off, or hook it up to the truck and drive off. Another thing to talk about for folks that might be looking for maybe a less expensive option. And maybe even like a lower maintenance situation. Hey, look, again, full of nuance. You could have started off in a small house, gotten married, had kids, moved into a bigger house, had all the rooms filled. Everybody moves out of the house. Now all of a sudden the house is too big, and now you're looking for something a little easier to maintain and go enjoy your life a little more on the weekends or what have you. So you might be looking at a townhome or a condo. Can you just talk a little bit about townhomes, condos, and then also, what about if it's a quote unquote second home? Is that a possibility, or do I need to only purchase it as an owner occupied home?
Good questions. So one part with the occupancy, it is designed to be your primary residence. Now, the VA does not have a time limit that you need to live in that property. And that's important. That's important. The only time a veteran does not need to occupy the property, and with no time limit on when they have to, is if you're on active duty service and a dependent will occupy that property, that will meet residency requirements. Right? So that's one exception. Like we had somebody, they did a power move because they had their daughter, they were overseas in Germany. They bought a multifamily property in Chicago. The daughter lived in one as a dependent, and then they rented out the other units. So like he was able to cash flow, have a basically the property pay for itself, and he made a little bit of extra money every month. His daughter had a place to stay, so that was positive. When it comes to condos and townhouse style construction, because townhomes is not a type of, let's say, building in the finance world. It's either going to be a attached single family or a condo. Most townhomes are condos. They're not planned unit developments. But you can check out the channel because I have a whole bunch of stuff on this. One thing it's important to note that the VA does do VA condo approvals. A lot of people will steer you away from that. We do a ton of those. So a lot of times we'll just tell people, we don't care if they're approved or not. Go find anything that you want. Even if it's denied by the VA or it's going to get denied by the VA, we can do a waiver in that property. So don't disqualify yourself. You guys got to surround yourself with a good team. Just like with VA disability. Like if you're with the wrong people, they'll tell you, oh, you're 100% permanent total. Go ahead and file for TDIU. And you're like, what? What just happened?
Yeah.
The same thing with VA loans. Yeah, because like people reach out to us all the time on the channel and they'll be like, hey, I saw your video on VA condos. My lender says that's not true. I'm like, well, put your money where your mouth is. We'll make it happen. But anyways, I digress. But yeah, so it's a great option, especially for like downsizing. You could buy in 55 plus communities with the VA loan. Yeah. So it's like, but again, a lot of people will be sitting on the sidelines, or you know, use your VA loan, buy a multifamily or buy a property, and have your kids assume it from you, and then go buy another one.
That's right. So I have, this isn't home loan, but it's housing. Okay. This is a roof over your head that I'm going to talk about here. And this is just a nice, gentle reminder for not just you, but maybe your loved ones who may have also served in the military, right? Could be a grandparent, an uncle, a cousin, an aunt, whatever it is. As we age, as veterans, right, we might need additional assistance, right? Whether it's assisted living or, God forbid, memory care. It's a big deal. Memory care is a very difficult thing to deal with. So you're talking about Alzheimer's, dementia, that type of stuff. Skilled nursing services. Every state Texas has like 10 veteran homes. These veteran homes are essentially like convalescent homes, right? They're homes that can provide an array of different services at a needs level that you need, right? So whether it's skilled nursing, memory care, or just the basics of assisted living, those are all around. Know that these resources exist and don't struggle if you don't have to, is all I'm saying. I have seen too many times where people are struggling, families are struggling through situations. Often these living situations can be the veteran and the spouse can go. So there's these opportunities. And then I hate to talk about it, but if we don't know, we don't know. And then that sucks. So it's better to talk about it, right? Eventually we all die. All right. Life is a conveyor belt, my dad says, right? It's a conveyor belt. We move, eventually you fall off and there you are. So there are obviously national cemeteries throughout the nation, but there are also state veteran cemeteries that mirror the look and feel of the national veteran cemeteries. And they are great. They are fantastic, and they are inspected, and they are a great option too in the event that you want to be buried in a veteran cemetery and your spouse and so forth. I encourage you to, if you've never been to either one of those, whether it's a national cemetery or a state cemetery for veterans, veteran cemetery, I encourage you to do so. I actually took my 9-year-old son with me. I go every year on Memorial Day to veteran cemetery, at least one. And there's usually a nice event that's going on Memorial Day. And but you can go anytime, right? And just check it out and you know, get an idea. There's staff there. You can talk with the staff and so forth and get an idea. All right. So it's always such a somber thing, but it's like, you know, nobody knows this stuff. So it's important to talk about it. One last question for you, David. And I'm going to share this comment. And the angle that the reason I'm going to I'm going to share this comment for you, David, is because I think the angle here is VA home loans and the appraisal requirements, really making sure that the veteran is not getting shafted, we'll say, for lack of a better term. So I would love for you to read the comment out loud with a straight face.
Our house wasn't checked properly in Georgia. The house was built for small-eyed people, not regular-sized people in Georgia. I can't.
Hey, you know, the guidelines are thin.
All right.
So appraisal. What would happen if you purchased that home with a VA appraisal? Do you think?
Okay. I would need to know some details because so sometimes there can happen, like the opposite happens. So like, let's say I had a buddy of mine, he purchased a condo from like a basketball player. They raised everything because they're tall, right? So they're not standard height cabinets.
All the counters are 42 inches tall.
So he asked, he's like, listen, I have to change this entire kitchen. Like I can't cook on this, right? And but they were able to buy it, right, with that. I'm assuming the opposite. If the doors, I'm just trying to think of like 3 foot high doors. Like if that's the case, like I don't, there's requirements from the state, right? Like you still have to meet code. If a house was built a long time ago, then it's normally grandfathered in with that code. I'm just not sure, like if you went to this house, like, and you were there, and you were like, "Hey, this is too small. You shouldn't have bought it." And so, I don't know if there's a good answer to this because I don't see in the minimum property requirements per the VA that there's a minimum door height or a door width, right? Because like if you look at homes these days for certain areas, there are requirements. Door has to be minimum 36 inches by X amount, 80 inches tall. Has to be fireproof. It has to be this. It has to be that.
Yeah.
So if the house is older, it's grandfathered in. But that did give me a laugh because you're right. Couldn't say that with a straight face.
Yeah. So Stephanie, just so you know, I mean, I'm totally envisioning it's made for like little people, like,
Right.
little people, like 3.5 foot people, like the TV shows with the little people,
Right.
Like the little guy on Jackass, the show, right? So I'm picturing like everything is super low. Now, if it's just maybe lowered a little bit, it kind of goes back to what David was talking about, where maybe the doors are the same, maybe the light switches are in the same spot, but maybe counters are dropped 4 inches or something because the person is, everybody in the house is sub 5'5" or something, and they want, a little more convenience. Or I guess 5'5" is actually pretty tall. Sub 5 foot. It's that's a possibility, right? That they changed it after the fact, and maybe the appraiser, maybe it was only just a fraction, maybe that much, and the appraiser didn't really notice the height as he's walking around taking pictures, and it's not something that you really fully noticed until you started sitting things down and actually living in there. I'll tell you, there's so many things when it comes to buying a house, right? There's so many things that you realize after the fact once you've been there for a little bit.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, like, I didn't realize there's no closets in this entire house except for in the bedrooms, right? Where do we put? Yeah, oh man, and the more you get out into, less the more rural that you get, the more, oddities you may find as well. So with that, we're at an hour and 14 minutes. We still got a few people watching. Is there any last thoughts that you want to throw out there, David?
No, I'll just tell people, look, kind of like what we've been talking about is that if you own a property, awesome. At least you locked in that equity and you can leverage, if rates drop, you can leverage doing an interest rate reduction refinance loan. Never disqualify yourself. And the content we talk about isn't just for you directly, because most of the time we're involved in organizations. and people have questions. And the reason we do this stuff is to get rid of those myths that hold people back from utilizing these benefits. I mean, I hear this stuff all the time, Jason, about VA disability from guys I serve with. And I'm like, actually, it's not that bad. This is what you have to do. Like, oh, well, I have to do this now and then.
Right.
Like, everything takes time, right? If your credit's not perfect, that's not a big deal. Time
Right.
will fix that. And getting yourself back on track, just like if you're injured, you don't just like wake up and be like, okay, I'm not injured today. Although my back sometimes is like that and my knees. but I'm saying in general, though, like there has to be a plan, right? And same thing happens here when it comes to housing, because housing does create stability, right? That's what a lot of people work towards. So they don't have to keep moving all the time, right? So just got to keep that in mind in that process. If you have questions, reach out to me. You could check out the channel. I got tons of videos around everything you could imagine around VA benefits, policy changes. And Jason, you could cover some of those as well with the major policy changes stuff. But sometimes it could be small stuff that could throw off your benefits. So get educated.
For sure. You know, one last thing I'm going to throw out there for folks, and this is just general awareness stuff, right? If you have any loved one, right, that had passed away, could be a grandparent, whoever, and they served in the military, you as the next of kin can order their military records. You can order their DD-214s or their discharge papers, different things that they may have had in their file. And it's a fun keepsake to have that you can pass on to from generation to generation, right? I did it with my grandfather's stuff, and I got a bunch of his stuff from when he was in the Merchant Marines during World War II. And I never would have had that stuff if I didn't actually take the time to order it. You can do that with the form SF, standard form 180. SF 180. How I think about it is if 360 is a circle, you're looking backwards in time, so it's 180. So SF 180, and you can order that. And actually, if you go to the National Archives website, you can just do it online, okay, as the next of kin. It's very basic information. I mean, you need to know enough, but you should be able to get through it. It's one of those things where you put in as much as you can. If there's things you don't know, you just skip it. And hopefully it works out and you'll get that information sent to you. The other thing that I want to throw out, whether you want to memorialize that loved one or you want to recognize somebody in your family or a friend, whoever, a great way to do it, at least for me, this is maybe, I don't know. I mean, maybe it's just me and it's exciting for me. And so I think everybody would be excited about it. It could be wrong. Is you can actually, and a lot of people don't know this, you can actually order an American flag from your congressional member's office and they'll fly it over the Capitol, pull it back down, put a certificate of authenticity with it and send it to you. The great part about it is there's on that certificate of whatever, I can't say it, the authentic certification. There you go. Close enough. On that, there's two things you can do. You can either take the canned message from your congressional member that, this flag is flown over at the request of Congressman so-and-so or Congresswoman so-and-so, and it flew over on this day or whatever. Or you can add your own message. So for recognition of so-and-so for their service during whatever you want it to say. And then it flies over, comes down, and it has that message along with a little blurb, tinier blurb from the congressperson's office. It's a great thing. You can also, for those that don't know, you can also select the specific day if you'd like. So if it's a day that you want to really hammer home and memorialize, then fly it over on that day. If you don't care what day and you just need to get it so you can give it, then just as soon as possible. You can order different sizes. It costs, it's like whatever, between probably $30 to $60 or something, depending on the size of flag and the material the flag is. I think it's like a poly type flag or a cotton flag. You pick what you want. I don't know. I like that type of stuff. I think it's great. And I do see one last question that has the word duplex in it, David. And so therefore I am going to give that to you. Here we are.
Last question. On a second home purchase, can you rent out one side of a duplex? Also, does a 1-year rule apply? So if you're purchasing, let's say the second home can mean a lot of things, like a second home, like a vacation home, or a second home, like you stay there sometimes. I'm assuming that this is you have a VA loan, but you want to buy another property and you want to purchase a duplex property as your primary residence. So yes, if you buy a duplex, threeplex, or a 4-unit, you can rent out the other units and you can live in one. And if you have 6 months of reserves of principal, interest, tax, and insurance, then you can use that future income to qualify for the property you're purchasing, even though there may be no leases. And does the 1 year...
Say that again, David, because that's so important. So back up and say how you can use the projected rental income. You know, remember, there's nobody in there. The whole place is empty. There's not a single person.
So the whole place is empty.
You're going to buy it, move into one of the units, whether it's a 2-unit, 3-unit, 4-unit, in order to capitalize on future rents being utilized to help you purchase this home for an income reasoning, right? Because it's going to be more expensive. How does somebody set themselves up for that?
So you would need 6 months of reserves, which is the principal, interest, tax, and insurance payment. The reserves could be like a TSP account, 401k, money market, stock account, checking, savings. And technically, if you're on someone else's checking account and your name's on there for the last 2 banking cycles, technically you would have access to that money. They would have to write a full access letter, and then you can do that. And then you'd be able to qualify. Now, be careful, because if the mortgage payment's more than you can chew and you can't rent it out fast enough, just keep in mind you got to make that mortgage payment. So, but yes, and the 1-year rule, this is a myth. I'm assuming you're saying that you have to live in a property for a minimum of 1 year. That is one of the biggest myths out there. It's just 1 day.
Got it.
I mean, not even, because you intend to occupy the property as your primary residence. If your situation changes, but you do have to be careful of mortgage fraud, occupancy fraud. So keep that in mind in this journey, because we've had people buy a multifamily and then 6 months later they're like, okay, my situation's changed. I'm having a kid. I need a single family. Okay.
Yeah. Or even I can't handle hearing people next to me and upstairs of me any longer. I thought I could. I can't. Right. It took me a month to figure that out. I'm done.
Well, a month would be stretching it, but like a couple months of
whatever, a couple months of that. Right. Got it. Well, where it makes sense. Got it. All right. So, hey, with that, thank you, David, so much for making it on. I do appreciate you and your expertise as always. And hey, we'll keep doing this because you. Sorry, you just joined. The comment just showed up. Well, thank you for joining. Look, I get it. There's never a good time to do these things because people have lives and not everybody can jump on as they'd wish. So this will post up on all the different channels, so you can go back and watch it. There's a lot of great information. Thank you guys so much for watching. We appreciate you very much. Have a great one. And remember, if we don't take care of each other, something went wrong.